Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Data Science Fellowship Cohort 9 Demo Day Showcase. Can you believe it? This is the 9th cohort, which means there have been 9 sets of amazing teams that have undergone this unique fellowship on the power of data science. My name is Val Vestille. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Young Environmental Journalists, or AYEJ, and I will be your host and moderator for tonight. I'm glad to be back. Second time I'm doing this. Thank God it's Friday. TGIF ngayon. No, it's a cold and cool and cuddle weather kind of weather from where I'm from. But before we head on over to our Friday night gigs, what an amazing way to spend our Friday night, to be able to gather for our data science showcase for Cohort 9. This is Demo Day, Reimagining the Future. Before we start our event, I'd like to call on Lex Tanganco, Project Director for Boot Camps, to say a few words. Lex?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Val. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Tonight is really the culmination of 15 weeks of learning, creating and applying the things that have been created. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our fellows for working really hard on your capstone projects, to our judges, of course, for joining us. I'm sure our fellows are quite excited to hear what you can give us in terms of their feedback. And of course, to our general public, to be able to witness the beauty of the data science work that our fellows have created. So who knows, maybe you might join us in our next cohort. So that's pretty much it. I just like to really welcome everyone and thank you for joining us tonight. And let's reimagine the future with data together.
I love that. Thank you so much, Lex, for that warm introduction. Gusto ko yung part na reimagine the future with data together. Kasi we cannot really do this alone. And that's exactly why Escolabs has been doing this for the longest time with experts, with the champions of these social advocacies. Maraming salamat po. Thank you for reminding us that the work we do is current, timely, and relevant to the needs of our society today. Now, so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Data Science Fellowship is a 15-week long boot camp divided into 4 sprints, with the final 6 weeks of the program dedicated to creating the fellows' capstone project creation. The fellows learn to use tools such as GitHub, Matplotlib, Pandas, SQL, Scikit-learn, and Streamlit. Tonight, we are here to celebrate and witness the hard work of our fellows as they present to you their capstone projects in this Demo Day Showcase. Now, tonight's event will feature 4 projects created by our Cohort 9 fellows. The first half of our Demo Day Showcase will feature 2 capstone projects, the ones you see on screen. One will investigate poverty in the city of Cabanatuan, while the other explores how Philippine MSME products can be globally competitive in an international e-commerce platform such as Amazon. Yan, this group is working closely with our company partner, Easy Fulfill. And then after the first half, we will have a short intermission to take a quick break and recharge before we dive into our last 2 capstone projects for the evening. Our final 2 groups will focus on creating a machine learning model to predict canceled hotel booking, while our final group will look into comparing and analyzing basketball archetypes in the local and international basketball scene. It looks like this is going to be a packed and fun and creative and insightful evening for all of us. Also, we have a surprise for everyone. The Escolabs team has a special discount promo for all Cohort 10 applicants. So if you're planning to join the 10th cohort, please stick around until the end so you get that promo code. Now, is everybody ready for our presentations? Can I get Zoom reactions even though we're miles apart from each other? Can I get a clap reaction, a thumbs up reaction, a heart reaction? Show us your energy, even if you're miles away. There you have it. I see clap, emojis, love icons. Thank you. We love you too. Thank you for being here. I think most of us are ready for our demo day tonight. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest panel for this evening. Our first guest is a data operations professional for ING Hubs Philippines and graduated with a bachelor's degree in computer science with specialization in Linux system administration. He is a Scrum Master for the Robust Data Management Operations BAU Automations team and serves as the process owner and IT custodian for centralized file requests. In line with the current role, he is also the Director for Communications and Contents Working Group for Data Management and is also the Technical and Media Team Director for Servants of Christ Christian Community. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here is Mr. Asaph Vega, our first panelist. Our second panelist is a medical and public health professional with 10 years of progressive experience in health systems strengthening and research, policy and organizational strategy, and program management within the Philippines and across countries. His area of expertise include the following: tuberculosis, HIV and private sector engagement, health economics, modeling, and health technology assessment, implementation science, management and innovation, and digital health, informatics, and analytics. Wow. He is the multi-award winning youth leader in the Philippines, having been named one of the 10 outstanding students of the Philippines and the Australia Alumni Excellence Young Achiever Awardee on the global stage. He is one of the first Obama Asia Pacific leaders. He also received the BMJ Global Health Grant and has been named one of Tatler Magazine's Genti 400 under 40 leaders of tomorrow in Asia in 2020 and has been named one of the Boston Congress of Public Health's 40 under 40 public health catalysts just this year in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Jason Alacapa, co-founder and CEO of Innovation CH and Meta Health. Up next, we have a graduate of the UP School of Economics, a Dean's Lister, and the UP College of Law. He currently works for Smart Sports PH and Tiebreaker Times, performing basketball film and data analysis, and carries the largest collection of advanced basketball statistics of the PBA and UAAP in the country. This is our third panelist, James Alba. And the lineup doesn't end there. Aside from our three judges, of course, we have our very own Bash Umol, Albert Bash Umol, as a senior data scientist at ING Netherlands, where he specializes in machine learning, natural language processing, and smart monitoring algorithms. He is also Esqualab's senior data scientist consultant. He is a self-proclaimed open sourcer and promotes open source technology and democratization of tech skills. He has over 10 years of experience with data science, both in academic research and industry applications. He is an advocate for using technology to promote social development and nationalism, and also teaches data science and its applications, focusing on human-centered design and data ethics. And finally, we have a special guest panelist for one of our capstone groups this evening, Mr. Neptune Factor, founder and CEO of EC Fulfill. Mr. Neptune is the founder and chief executive officer of EC Fulfill, a global e-commerce management platform currently powering more than 200 local MSMEs, expansion path towards engaging international marketplaces such as Amazon and eBay. He led the country management team in EC Fulfill's launch in 2018, as well as its overall product strategy and scale roadmap. In the same year, EC Fulfill was hailed as one of the 6 national winners of the Idea Space Startup Competition, a PLDT group-backed initiative, before being selected as part of the 2019 Fin Cohort of the AIM Dado Banatao Incubator Program. Ladies and gentlemen, grabe, yun yung ating mga panelists and guests for this evening. Our lineup of judges have been carefully selected, and they're a diverse group. They have been selected to be tailor fit to the capstone topics that our fellows have been working on for over 15 weeks now. So I think they are in the best spot. They are in the best position. We have the best people to be judges and givers of feedback and insights later on in after our presentations. Parang na ano ako, very credible and incredible people. There could have been no better people to help us judge through our demo day presenters for tonight. Also, even though our fellows will be having a panel of judges during the Q&A, for all 60 of you who are here, our audience, you're very much a part of this experience with us. And we would like to encourage you to please send in your own questions for the fellows through the Dory link shared in the screen and sent there. I see it on the Zoom chat. Thank you so much. Then after our fellows present and have their Q&A with our judges, they will be answering your questions in the Dory. So don't be shy, please, and send in your questions as we go through the presentations. Kung may naiisip kayo, may na-realize kayo, may insight kayo, please feel free to check out our Dory and share your comments, thoughts, and questions for our groups. Yan. And I think we are all set and we are all ready. Eyes and ears ready, hearts ready, head ready. With that, I'd like to introduce to you our first group of fellows for this evening. Please welcome Gerard Maandal, Jacob De Leon, Jeremiah Fernandez, Jonathan De La Cruz, and Ronald Flores to present Road to Poverty, a machine learning approach to alleviating poverty in Cabanatuan City. You can also check out their capstone project through the link shared in the chat. Here they are.
Good evening, everyone. We are very excited to present to you today our capstone project, Road to Zero Poverty, a machine learning approach to alleviating poverty in Cabanatuan. So in 2021, the PSA reported over 26 million Filipinos living below the poverty threshold. That is living on a salary of 12,000 pesos a month in a family of 5. And this is actually much worse compared to the 2018 census data. And the reason why poverty remains to be such a big problem today is because it is multidimensional. While one may have a source of income, other problems like access to safe water, education, crime and safety, among many others, further complicate this issue. So in collaboration with the local government of Cabanatuan, we aspiring data scientists will be investigating poverty using their CBMS, or the Community-Based Monitoring System of 2018. In a nutshell, the CBMS captures the impact of macroeconomic policies on vulnerable groups. So to do this, you gather data at the household or individual level, gather their demographics with an attention to vulnerable groups, and then from this, you can get global progress indicators like the UN's SDGs for 2030. So this leads us to our research question. That is, what data-driven solutions can we provide Cabanatuan in alleviating poverty? To achieve this, we have 3 supporting objectives. First, we want to uncover the factors affecting poverty at the household level. This will help us identify the pressing issues at the micro perspective. Second, we wish to quantify the factors of poverty with most impact at the barangay level. Because solutions more large scale in nature, it is best to weigh its risks and benefits. After finding the what's and by how much, we also want to strategically allocate these solutions throughout the city.
Our dataset, the CBMS 2018 Cabanatuan data, initially has 72,000 households. In the features, CBMS has 14 core indicators that are measured in the domains shown on screen. For this study, the labeling whether a household is poor or not was already available in the dataset and is based on income threshold. These are the 14 CBMS poverty indicators visualized, with red representing poor households and blue for not poor households. 5 of which were experienced mostly by poor people, while far more indicators are also close to the majority. This map shows the prevalence of poverty in barangay level. The darker the shade is, the poorer the barangay. Despite being a first-class component city of Nueva Ecija, Cabanatuan has a high poverty rate of 27%, equivalent to 18,000 poor households. Comparing to the national data of the same year, the city is 10 marks higher than the 17% national baseline. This is a long road towards the SDG no poverty metric of 3% by 2030. Looking into age demographics, 66% are in the labor force. These residents are ages 15 to 64. Based on class composition, the poverty is most prevalent in the young age group, with 41% of them living in a poor household. This implies that poor residents tend to have more children. Having said that, let's look at the health of the infants. 49% of the reported infant deaths belong to the poor households. But looking in the breakdown of the barangay level, there's a wide distribution. Some barangays have all deaths belonging to poor households, while other barangays have all deaths belonging to not poor households. Another indicator to look into for children is access to education. For every 100 poor Cabanatueño children, 90 enrolls to elementary and 10 does not even enter school. 68 enrolls to high school and 51 enrolls to college, which means 49 have no college access. Lastly, we're curious if the work opportunity in the city is sufficient. Cabanatuan labor force has a smaller unemployment rate of 4% versus the national baseline of 5%. Of these unemployed residents, only 30% among them is poor. These are just some of the variables covered by the survey. Looking into each of them independently will not point us on which particular ones dictate poverty. Whilst there are indicators with majority poor or majority non-poor, it does not completely characterize the poverty situation in Cabanatuan. The data per se will not answer our questions like, how do we strategically alleviate poverty in barangay level? Thus, we came up with 3 parallel models.
Each of these 3 models specifically addressed a study objective. The dataset was first analyzed at the household level. After resampling and scaling, gradient boosting classifier was differentiating whether a household is poor or not. The other approach is investigating at the barangay level. Multilinear regression was utilized to quantify the impact of features, while K-means clustering produced barangay clusters grouped based on their poverty-related characteristics. Here's how our models performed. The gradient boosting classifier was used to understand what features greatly affect the household level poverty. The classification model optimizes the recall with a hypertuned output of 73%. Our group is interested in recall score because we want to lessen the false negatives. For example, incorrectly classifying a poor household as non-poor. Secondly, the multilinear regression, on the other hand, calculated the impact of features in the barangay level poverty. The model performed well as evident by 0.61 R-squared versus the generally accepted 0.5 R-squared in social science studies. Lastly, K-means clustering answered the question, how do we allocate the limited resources of Cabanatuan City LGU to ensure effective poverty alleviation? The highest silhouette score of 0.43 was used to validate the most optimal number of clusters, which is 4. For better understanding, let us walk you through on the 3 models. To answer our research question, which factors have the most impact on poverty on household level, we use classification model. Let's take a look first in the dataset. It can be noticed that the dataset is imbalanced because there are more non-poor households than the poor ones. To address this imbalance, we use resampling techniques to match the number of data for poor and non-poor households. Specifically, we used undersampling and oversampling techniques to balance the data, each with 6 different classification models. Gradient boosting classifier with SMOTE had the best recall validation set scores without overfitting the training set. We then improved the model by hypertuning it to get the best parameters that would result in the best recall score and with high accuracy. It resulted to an improvement of 61% for recall score and 9% for model accuracy. The graph shows the explainability of our model. It is worth mentioning that the model captures the complexity of poverty in different dimensions. It can be seen that having many working members can mitigate poverty, but income may be overwhelmed through number of dependents, their educational needs, and current living conditions. To illustrate this, parents with many dependents have no time to do other things. Or, non-poor households have few children, therefore, they can focus their energy on other things. Finally, we can encapsulate the factors that have the most impact on poverty at the household level through the following. too many mouths to feed. It means poverty is characterized by large financial demands on a small income household. This is also supported by the most important features of the classification model, which are dependents aged 0 to 14, number of members working, and eligible working members. Given that poverty is multifaceted, you can give two recommendations. For short term, we suggest having targeted cash program for household independence. And in the long term, invest in areas such as education, technical skills to break the cycle of poverty.
To reiterate our model overview, the linear regression shows the approximate linear relationship of variables to the proportion of poverty at barangay level. To give context on how we shifted our attention from household level to barangay level, we transformed our given dataset by grouping all columns per barangay and get their proportion. For example, we get the proportion of child death by summing all the child death in a barangay divided by the population of children in that particular barangay. Exploring other metrics in evaluating the regression model, let's look at the middle plot, which is the residual versus fitted response plot. This shows that the model overestimates its fitted response if the prediction exceeded 50%, while the plot on the right shows the residual or errors follows normal probability plot, which is acceptable in linear regression. Here are the relationship of chosen feature with p-value less than 0.05. Percentage of poor per barangay increases with increasing proportion of child death, experience food shortage, no access to safe water, unemployment, illiteracy, and age dependency. Interestingly, percentage of poor decreases with increasing proportion of victims of crime and not going to college. The biggest factor increasing the poverty is the proportion of child death. In a barangay, holding all the variables constant with 1% increase in child death, there will be 2.4 increase in poverty in a barangay.
To answer the question, how can we strategically allocate our solutions in Cabanatuan, we use K-means clustering. This enables us to prepare recommendations tailor-fit for each cluster of barangays, of which we identified 4 in total. We then map these clusters so we can see where each is located and how they are spread out across Cabanatuan. The first one, the security and basic education cluster, is quite distinct from the others. With only one barangay, this cluster's main problem is not poverty, but rather the occurrence of crime. Since there are a lot of businesses, it is not surprising that this will be the case. In addition to that, illiteracy among children aged 10 and above is also evident, but keep in mind the population is only 100. That being said, we suggest to invest more on security and law enforcement on this cluster. With regards to the illiteracy problem, it could also help to implement programs targeted towards children aged 10 and above, focused on activities such as reading and writing. The second one, the higher education and livelihood cluster, shows high number of those not in college, unemployed, and the number of dependents. This could indicate that there are a lot of large households where the older children cannot afford to go to college, but at the same time, they are hesitant to go to work. With this information, we suggest to provide livelihood trainings and alternative education programs for college-aged individuals. The third one, the technical opportunity and childcare cluster, has a high number of those not attending college. This could also mean that there are a lot of college-aged individuals who cannot afford to study, but at the same time cannot decide if they will apply for work. Although quite poor, these barangays have a lot of people capable of work. In addition to that, it has a relatively high number of child deaths compared to the preceding clusters. This could indicate a need for a community-based early childhood healthcare and development program focused on children aged 5 and below. For college-aged individuals, provide trainings like technical vocational programs to utilize this section of the population. The last one, the sanitation and food shortage cluster, has the most number of poor households and dependents. Compared to the other barangays, they also have the highest number of households who experience food shortage and has no access to safe drinking water. There are existing programs such as the 4Ps designed to address this problem, and it seems like this cluster could benefit the most. In addition to that, investing on projects that will make safe drinking water more accessible could be very beneficial. While these clusters put the barangays into different categories, it's worth noting that they're still quite similar and could share the same problems as the others. That being said, a solution recommended for one cluster is not exclusive for that cluster alone.
So now we return to our problem statement. What data-driven solutions can we provide in alleviating poverty? So in addressing poverty at the household level, we have our classification model. To quantify factors with the most impact on poverty, we have our linear regression. And for allocating these solutions, we have our clusters. The results from all of our models are neatly summarized in this roadmap, which we'll be providing to the LGU. So for example, in the case of health and nutrition, we encouraged in the short term providing goods and health screenings for newborn infants, and in the long term to build awareness through seminars on pre-pregnancy and prenatal care. These are then applied to the clusters on the right. Lastly, we want to make it clear that these are not absolute solutions in alleviating poverty, and its use case is limited to kabanatuan. We recommend future studies, however, to explore other features not explored by the CBMS, such as teenage pregnancy, source of living, domestic violence, and many others. But we recommend that our methods be used as a blueprint in analyzing other LGUs. We encourage non-specialists to explore our models through the Streamlit link below. And lastly, we hope to empower LGUs and all individuals to incorporate machine learning in reaching zero poverty. Special thanks to our domain experts in community development and social work for the guidance and completion of this project. And that concludes our capstone. Thank you, and we're ready to take your questions.
Thank you. Let's give Team Cabanatuan a big digital virtual round of applause. That was a lot of hard work. Can you imagine the kind of stories that data really tell about a certain community? That was incredible. Thank you so much, Team Cabanatuan. For our audience, please feel free to head on over to the Dory link sent in the chat if you have any questions you might want to share with your group. Now, for now, I will be opening the floor to our panel of judges for their questions, starting siguro with our main panelist for Team Cabanatuan, Dr. Jason Alacapa.
Yep. Thank you, Val, for recognizing me. Thank you to the Team Cabanatuan. Big congratulations. That was an impressive work. And I think there are many interesting findings. Like in my case, coming from my perspective as a developmental worker, mostly in the public health sphere, interestingly, you've noted infant mortality rate as an important factor to consider or to address when alleviating poverty. In fact, that's the most sensitive health indicator that we have. So you were spot on. I mean, that connives with a lot of literature. It's a well-known fact, actually, in the developmental space. But I think just one minor suggestion that I may give to the team, not to put your hopes on. This is very little. I guess it's a good practice for us to hedge, meaning to hedge when we're trying to give some conclusion or recommendation. Because as you've mentioned in your presentation, you're trying to give solutions or recommendations based on limited information. So using the words this may probably mean that blah and blah and blah is actually okay. It's recommended. It makes you more scholarly because although you have data, it doesn't say 100% because of this state observation, it should be like this. So use may just hedge a bit. But overall, impressive job to the team. So just a disclaimer, although I am literate, data-wise, not as good as you guys. My field is mostly developmental. My question would be mostly practical because I believe as data scientists, while we do the dirty work of cleaning the data and doing all these analysis, at the end of the day, these products, these data solutions, these data outputs are meant to assist our decision makers. In this case, the local government units, the local chief executives, the mayor, for instance, of Cabanatuan City. So now, having this product, for instance, how are you going to sell this to the mayor so that he will adopt this and he will continuously fund your data solutions project year after year?
Hello, Jonathan here from the team. To
Go
answer
ahead,
your
please.
question, one of us will present this to the city planning head of the LGU. I already talked to them, and I think he will get after my presentation with them, and I think it's with the vice mayor. They're gonna get the other departments to hear out our presentation and suggestion, and hopefully we have a very healthy discussion about this.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I see. So you're going to the LGU route. You're already connected with the right people. Tama ba?
Yes, I'm working in the Cabanatuan City LGU.
Great, great. Yeah. So sige, that's a good step forward. Perhaps a minor suggestion related to that would be, you already have it in your data solutions output. You can package this more as more of an executive decision support system, more of they will see some visualization that's already actionable for the mayor or whoever will be deciding, oh, this is the color or this is the figure. What does it mean? Okay, I should need to focus more on this area. Based on my experience in COVID-19, that was helpful in 15 local government units, of which we have provided some similar solutions provided by a group by public health and data science professionals as well. So I think usually the mayors won't understand the nitty-gritty, so you can give that executive decision support system. That might be more appeal, will have more appeal to the local chief executives. And of course, include capacity building for people in the government. You know this, Jonathan, you've mentioned you're from the government.
Yes.
So it's important that you capacitate people in the government, because otherwise when you leave the local government, your project will die down.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's my
sorry.
first. Yes, go
Sorry.
ahead.
To add, just to add, our dataset is 2018, dated 2018. So I think there will
Mhm.
be a huge gap. Especially their next CBMS will is actually being implemented this August
Currently,
22. Yes.
yes.
So I think we're gonna have to retrain our data with the results.
Great.
Yeah. And just to add,
That's an opportunity to retrain your model with
yes.
this new data set and perhaps calibrate your model. All right, that's for my
Hello.
first question.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Sir Jason. Just to add to that,
Yes, Jal.
we have here a presentation or a Streamlit app wherein the mayor can view our results easily. Like for example, for clustering, he can view here. Let's say for example, he wants to see people with no access to safe water, and then if he wants to check the security and basic education, so we've prepared a map for him.
Mhm.
So it will readily show you the results of our study. So for example, for barangays, unemployed dependents. So as you can see there, for Barangay Obrero, there's 65.64%. And then on totality, that the mayor can easily see the barangays in which they can put solutions for the selected barangays.
Yes, Jalo, thanks for sharing this. This is a right step forward toward that executive decision support to the mayor, but perhaps make it more obvious, that he does not need to go to the nitty gritty, because usually these top level executives won't have much time to work on these things. So yeah, I'm tasked to be the main person to ask questions. I have another question, but I'm not sure if there are other people who are ready to ask question. Val, I'm ready to give the floor to them.
Thank you, Doc Jason. Um, we have one question from room for one question from Bash. Bash, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Val. A technical question from me. I saw that you use k-means clustering for your segmentation algorithm. Why did you use k-mean clustering, and what other algorithms did you consider?
Oh, hi, I'm Japat. I'm the one who did the K-means. So we considered using K-means because our data was quite big. So the other one was hierarchical clustering, but we read that it could be a bit tedious for larger data sets. So we opted for K-means clustering. And another thing for hierarchical is I think it's best for data that is sort of that has subgroups, that yeah, hence the name hierarchical data. And I think that's not the case for our data set.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, Rush. Maybe
sure,
to add, we also consider k-means versus k-modes, but we learned that k-means, since our data is more numerical, we focus on k-means, and k-modes is more on applicable on categorical. So yeah, that's another consideration from our group.
Okay, expert advice from me. You use k-means when the data set has inherent symmetry. So if you look at the PCAs, you transform them into your coordinate axis. And if you see like certain clusters forming that are very symmetric, the shapes aren't, we use k-means. But if your data set is non-symmetric, which I think is the case for this data set, I am very familiar with how poverty research is being done in the Philippines. So most of the things that they use is not k-means for segmentation. They use DBSCAN or TNSE and other models that account for asymmetric data clustering. So you might want to consider that as well. Last comments na lang from me as also like an activist. you, I think, focused on looking at indicators of poverty, right? So you cannot really like claim, okay, this will solve poverty if we recommend this. You might need to look at more complex models in trying to address the root cause of poverty, because in the Philippines, you know, how systemic problems are in terms of how imperialism, bureaucrat capitalism, and feudalism takes into place. But very well done in terms of the technical things that you've learned throughout the bootcamp. Congrats, guys.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bash.
Thank you.
Wow. Bash is impressed technically. That's big. Doc Jason, do you have any other inputs
Yeah,
to add
sure.
before we close this off?
Just a one quick one. I guess to be fair, no, I agree with Bash. I think to be fair with the team, they did mention that one solution may not be enough, because that's also an overwhelming comment on my end. I think that's a common mistake, that we reduce poverty into buckets. That if you solve this, it will naturally solve the other buckets. It's systems thinking. Lahat ng bagay magkakaugnay, and it's true. Siguro last feedback na lang na instead of comment, no. I would caution the team in terms of recommending doon sa clustering, doon sa K-means, di ba? May clusters of barangay kayo. Oh, all right, let's do water and sanitation here, security here. Because there's such a thing as allocative efficiency. I think we have an economist in the team, among the panel. Allocative efficiency meaning you only have one pie. So, ito lang yung share of resources mo. If you allocate more resources, let's say for security to these certain barangays, saan siya kukunin? Di ba makikiagaw siya from the other source of finances. Finite lang yung sources natin. So this is something that hopefully ma-incorporate sa model, how to achieve that efficient distribution of resources. Kasi ultimately, kukunin nyo yan from somewhere. Hindi naman nag-expand yung pera natin available for servicing dun sa city natin. I guess that's all. But overall, I'm impressed. Congratulations to the team. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Team Cabanatuan. We have no more time for other inputs and questions from our judges. But remember, we have the Dory link right over there. And we'll get back to our judges later for our other groups. Congratulations once again, Team Cabanatuan. We really see the potential already of the kind of products and data that can be used by our LGUs, hopefully in the near future. Just maybe after this demo day. Now, moving on, I would now like to introduce our second group of fellows with their project serving Philippine delicacies on the global menu, making local products competitive on the global platform Amazon. I'm excited for this as a food lover. Please welcome Angeline Lacar, Eleanor Geniston, John Patrick Laurel, Carl Aleta, and Raymart Perillo. Similar to Team Cabanatuan earlier, you can check out our Team EC Fulfills project by clicking on the link shared in the chat. Here is our second group for tonight.
On the global menu, making local products competitive on the global platform Amazon together with our company partner EC Fulfill. EC Fulfill makes Philippine products available all over the world. They saw the growth potential of small and medium businesses as only 4% of these companies are exporting. Through their Expert Pinoy program, they envision making our local companies into global e-businesses by helping them sell on international platforms like Amazon. However, how will they survive and thrive in this global setting? They've observed that business owners lack awareness and access to information on what makes a globally competitive product. How do they write their product titles and descriptions? What images should they post? Upon exploration of the platform, we found a feature of Amazon bestsellers, which shows the 100 most popular products per category based on sales. With those in mind, we defined our data science problem as, how can we make our Philippine products an Amazon bestseller?
To answer this problem, we defined two objectives. First, to identify the important features of a product listing, and second, to surface bestseller practices. In order to achieve our objectives, we did the following. First, we gathered data through web scraping. Afterwards, the data was pre-processed, and we created a binary classification model. Based on our initial findings, we then further explored the data to provide three in-depth analysis. start, we selected 5 Amazon categories that include Easy Fulfill's partner products. These are ground and instant coffee, herbal tea, dried mangoes, and vegetable chips. We scrape the data using Selenium. Here is a sample Amazon product listing page and the features we gathered like title, rating, rank, and many more. Here is an example of our dataset. From our initial data of 1,066 products, we had 863 left after cleaning. Let's take a peek on how a profile setup may contribute to being a bestseller. An analysis of product title and descriptions showed that length, or the number of words and details, matters, as bestsellers have longer texts. In this aspect, Easy Fulfill listings are performing well. Following Amazon's published best practices, more images may attract sales as it gives potential buyers a glimpse of the product. Bestsellers generally have more images and Easy Fulfill products as well. Interestingly, a product's high star rating isn't enough to distinguish a product as a bestseller. Instead, we should focus on garnering more number of ratings, as bestsellers significantly trend higher. Easy Fulfill may set up promos to encourage reviews of their products. Lastly, another feature with the potential to launch a listing to success is to entice user curiosity. Bestsellers significantly have more answered questions. This may be a critical point of improvement of Easy Fulfill products, as none of its listings have any answered questions.
So now let's discuss how we use classification models to identify important product listing features. So to start, here is our model pipeline. First, we set X to be the product listing features and Y as the classification of the product on whether it is a bestseller or a general listing. The data was then normalized and an 80-20 train test ratio was applied. Then we selected the following features shown in the slide. And for modeling, we trained the following multiple models. And then the models were cross-validated using stratified k-folds, hypertuned and evaluated based on their accuracy and F1 score. Lastly, we look into the most important features in classifying product listings. After training and testing to see which model would give the best results, we selected K-nearest neighbors classifier as the best model because it gave relatively high accuracy and F1 scores without overfitting. Compared to the baseline accuracy of 62.9%, our model had a higher accuracy of 66.3% with an F1 score of 70.2%. We further hypertuned the chosen model, which gave us the following optimal parameters. And from the confusion matrix, we see the model correctly identified 66 bestsellers and 57 general products in the holdout set. This gives the model an accuracy of 71% and an F1 score of 72%. So what does the model tells us? Using SHOP, we calculated the impact of the features on how the model classifies listings. We see that the top 3 features that affect product listing classification are title length, image count, and the length of the description.
Let's dive deeper. How these features contribute to being a bestseller. First, we analyze the product descriptions to see if certain keywords are key to becoming a bestseller. To get the top keywords, we converted the descriptions into sequence of words and computed their frequency. Then we did some sense checking. Lastly, we took top 20 most occurring keywords of bestsellers per category and compared their volume to non-bestsellers. And from the top keywords, we observed 3 general trends: labels, consumer experience, and content and certifications. For most product categories, labels definitely matter. Use the generic labels in the corresponding Amazon product category, such as ground and instant coffee, herbal tea, and dried mangoes. We also see a trend of selling the consumer experience. For coffee, use keywords that sell getting that caffeine hit, respectively. For food, market them as a healthy snacking alternative. Lastly, marketing product health benefits and their certifications are also worth considering. Keywords emphasizing clean content, such as non-GMO and gluten-free, and their corresponding global certifications, such as Fairtrade and USDA Organic, are highlighted among bestsellers. How about getting the sentiments of the descriptions? We computed the sentiments using Amazon product descriptions. We cleaned the data by removing numbers and empty descriptions. Then, we analyzed sentiment analysis using the models Vader, Pattern, and Flare to compare their performance in tagging description sentiments. And from the sentiment analysis of the 3 models, majority of the product descriptions are tagged as positive. Between bestsellers and general listing, a higher percentage of positive descriptions can be noticed at bestsellers. And comparing bestsellers to Easy Fulfill's products, we observe that all of the descriptions are also positive. It is an indication that they are well written to be on par to bestsellers' descriptions.
Next, we look into the listing images. Is there a dominant color among listing images per category? We computed for the color composition by getting the first image of every listing, since it gives the initial impression to catch potential buyers' attention. The pixels of an image are converted to numerical values and compared with a specific color palette through an algorithm to find which color in the chosen palette is the nearest to the image pixel color. We found that light colors, including white, are the dominant color in the entire image. White is a must for the product image background according to the Amazon site standard. There is also no significant difference of dominant colors between bestsellers and non-bestsellers. In the dried mangoes category, the second most dominant pixel color is orange. We can see here examples of images of bestsellers where the dried mangoes can be seen on the packaging. Meanwhile, the image listing of the Easy Fulfill partner product slightly deviates from the overall trend since the actual product is the chocolate-covered variety. In the ground and instant coffee categories, dark shades are the prevalent colors. Most of the packaging also include images of ground beans or a cup of coffee, which contributes to the average color composition. In comparison, the partner product in instant coffee category used lighter colors. An almost equal amount of orange and green can be observed in the herbal tea category. The vibrant earth colors are seen as energizing and healthy, a marketing goal in this category. To improve partner product listings, actual product can be enlarged on the image canvas to minimize white spaces. Now we look into the potato chips healthy alternative, vegetable chips. Using green and orange as well to evoke an energizing and healthy vibe, the products in this category use touches of red on their packaging, appealing to the appetite.
So going back to our data science problem, here is our synthesis. To set up our local products for global success, we should pay attention to how we craft listings. Titles and descriptions are encouraged to be detailed, use Amazon categories, sell the product experience, and add health benefits or in-demand certifications if any. For listing images, we recommend using the surface relevant colors per category. They should also follow Amazon's best practices of using a white background, maximizing the image canvas, and uploading at least 6 images. Also, we encourage to pay attention to continued listing management, elicit user interactions, and get more high-star ratings and questions answered on the listing. Our project also had some limitations. Due to platform constraints, we had to scrape slowly, and so we gathered limited data. We also had gaps between our data acquisition, which impacted Amazon rankings that are generated hourly. This also makes our data sensitive to concept drift. For further studies, we recommend including more features and to use boundary detection to isolate the product packaging and photos. To end, we would like to say mabuhay ang gawang Pilipino. Let us be proud of our local products taking up space in the global menu. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much to our team Easy Fulfill. Yung pinaka-takeaway ko dun talaga ay labels definitely matter. Opo, ano po? Sa lahat ng bagay, importante ang label. Now, it was really nice to see how we could use data and take advantage of data to explore and investigate how local products can be globally competitive. Kasi naman, yung mga produkto natin, di ba, ay talagang deserve na makita at maipresenta sa international stage. All right. So again, for our audience, as mentioned in the chat, please feel free to head on over to the Dory link to send in your inquiries for the group, and we will answer this during the Q&A or reply directly to them after. I'd like to welcome again our special guest judge and main panelist for Team Easy Fulfill, Mr. Neptune Factor, to join our panel for this capstone group. Now it's time for the second round of Q&A for our fellows, specifically for Easy Fulfill. Sir Neptune, go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations everyone. Good job. I like the barong. Really proud of it. And also I agree with Lex during his intro wherein you should do this together. I'm currently now in Bicol region. So I went to Legazpi and now in Naga talking to MSMEs. And they would really need our help. Some of these exporters, they've been doing this for so many years now, but they're not very familiar with the world market. They only deal with, for example, what they call trader buyers, and they don't know what's out there, what's in the world market. So I give an example. They don't know the price. They're selling it 100 pesos. They don't know that it's being sold at 3,000 pesos, something like that, right? In terms of packaging, I like what you did. In terms of color, I wish we could analyze in terms of image. Image in terms of do they fruits or the mushrooms? Does it matter? Not just color. Because I will give you another example. There's an MSME that is, if you're familiar with toll manufacturing, so basically there is another company and they ask them to do the production, and what this other brand, they send them their packaging already, so it's already a good packaging. But if you compare it to his own brand, his own packaging, it's worlds apart, because he doesn't know what to put on the packaging. So I think it will really help on what you're doing in terms of colors, but I think in terms also on images, I think that will be the next level. The other one I like is in terms of highlighting the keywords, especially the certifications. Why it's very important, because it's costs. There's a cost involved to that, to an MSME. So a certification will cost them thousands of pesos, and it's hard for us to justify for them to spend this if they don't see an advantage to that. But using this data, we can tell them, okay, this is very important. And this is not only for the MSMEs, but also for our government officials. So we are working with DTI, for example, in Albay, and they have a budget for that. So if we tell them this is very important for MSMEs, they can at least subsidize or fund a certain portion of those certifications. So I think that's cool as well. I don't have questions in terms of the technical side. I'm not very familiar with it, but I think I'm very impressed, and I'm hoping that we can put this to our own application, and so that they can help more MSMEs. Thank you, everyone. Good job.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Neptune. Napaka-importante talaga ng image, packaging, visuals, no, sa lahat ng mga bagay natin. If you really want to elevate our local brand. Maraming salamat po. Bash, do we have any questions? I'm sure we do have questions for the team. Go ahead, Bash.
Okay, guys, first of all, congratulations, because your client is very impressed with your work, and that's very important when doing MVPs in data science. Second, I don't agree that labels matter. Label matters only if it is supervised, but not for unsupervised. So labels give boundaries, and it's harder to make sense of the world if we cluster everything and label everything. Question from me on a technical perspective, how do you handle data and model drift? So data drift is if the uso or like best-selling products changes, how does your model accommodate those types of changes, and even the dynamics of those models changes, how the data points are interacting. How can you like accommodate those types of drifts in your future implementations?
So I'll try to answer that question. So We built an object-oriented pipeline, but it is incomplete. So in the pipeline, it's only the modeling and hypertuning part and some pre-processing stuff, but the data collection is not in the pipeline. So right now it's not automated per se, but that's actually our plans. But due to time constraints, we have not figured out how to put that in the pipeline yet.
Okay, so just a recommendation from me, create a negative feedback loop with different types of models that ingest your data points. Quickly, second question from me, because I am also interested with how you implemented computer vision as requested by Neptune earlier. Image object detection is the next way to go. But I'm very interested on your approach on why you limit your colors into 8 predetermined colors. Why did you do that? Why the 8 colors?
Yeah, I'm gonna take that question. The way we structure the algorithm is running one notebook in one category takes at least 1 hour to 2 hours to run. So we decided to just limit the number of colors to just the primary and secondary colors, and we use the RGB values of those that are visually distinct when it comes to the screen.
Okay, so recommendation from me, don't do that. Listen to what the data is telling you and try to minimize your bias. So what you can do instead is get all of your images, use convolution techniques, or even k-means even, to just let the data tell you what colors are important. Because by doing this predetermined color identification, we already introduce a lot of bias, and they might not represent the best colors that would represent like best-selling products. So let the data tell you the appropriate colors based on big data that you have. And of course, I think you also discussed Spark and other map reduce like algorithms to handle those big data nuances. But yeah, that's more for you guys to look forward to and study in your future data science journey. So yeah, congratulations and good job.
Good job. Thank you so much. For our other panelists, Asaf and Ryan, if you have any questions, none, we're good, we're clear. All right, sige. Thank you once again to our judges and congratulations to our first 2 teams. We have a poverty reduction capstone project from Team Cabanatuan and a local promotion of local products to the international stage by Team EC Fulfill. Congratulations at maraming salamat sa inyong sheer amount of talent and hard work and dedication to making sure that our capstone projects are really meaningful contributions in the field of data. All right, before we move on to our last 2 capstone projects for tonight, we will be having a short break. So take a quick break and we'll see you in 5 minutes. If you want to hydrate, go get a hygiene break. You have 5 minutes to do so. And I'll welcome you right back in after 5 minutes as we present our last 2 capstone projects for the night, which I'm so excited about. See you in 5 minutes. Ayan. Welcome back. I hope that 5-minute break gave you time to stretch those muscles and drink some water. Kasi sabi ng isang philosopher, drink your water. Sabi ni Mimiya. All right, before we meet our next group of fellows, I'd like to remind the audience that you can send over your questions to the fellows by going to the Dory link that is shown on the screen. If you already see a similar question, you may click on the thumbs up to upvote it. Ayun. All right. So I just want to check if all of our 60 participants are still here before we go to our second set of capstone projects. Can you show me your thumbs up, your heart reactions over your Zoom? There you go. Thank you, Tin. Thank you, Aidan. Thank you, Bren, Christian. Ayan, Dwight. Fred, maraming salamat. Lesman, Lenmar. Yan. Parang nag-shout out. Pa-shout out. Shout out ko lahat ng ating mga super active and engaged audiences. Maraming salamat po sa pagdalo at pagsama sa amin sa ating demo day. Now, let's get to it. I hope you are all excited to meet our next group. Please give a warm digital welcome to Angelo Costa, Christian Tan, and Christine Toriana with their project Buka, a machine learning solution to deal with booking cancellations for Hotel Lita. Here we go.
Good day, everyone. We are to present our solution to our hotel business client. Introducing Buka. It's a machine learning solution to deal with booking cancellations for our client, Hotel Lita. So this is an Escolab capstone project. To give you a background, hotel revenue management is the application of information systems and pricing strategies to allocate the right capacity to the right customer at the right price and at the right time. In order to do that, hotels introduced advanced bookings. This contract gives the customer the right to use the service in the future at a settled price, usually with an option to cancel the contract prior to the service provision. So this technology helps hotels to forecast the revenue and performance. It also provides satisfaction for the customers in search of best deals while locking in the room availability in advance. However, when the customer cancels the booking or does not show up, it will be an opportunity lost for the hotel. So for your information, according to studies, there is 20 to 60% cancellations from total bookings. And if not considered, it will translate to 20% income loss. So in order to amend this, hotels manage risk by implementing overbooking and cancellation policies. But this will reduce the number of bookings and may cause terrible customer experience. Another solution is to avoid cancellation. When determined, they can take proactive actions like giving promos or not allow free cancellations for the customers. Lastly, the hotel can just cancel the booking. So our client, Hotel Lita, is not exempted from this issue. So the client needs an approach for booking cancellations to answer the following questions. Number one, which booking will likely cancel? Number two, what could be the reasons? And lastly, how to approach the cancellation. So our proposal for our client is Buka. It's a serious technological framework grounded in booking cancellation prediction model. So it predicts the probability of each booking to be canceled. This will help our client to produce better forecasts and reduce uncertainty in management decisions. It can also help them in revenue management, such as inventory allocation, pricing decision, and other management contexts. And it will enable our client to act upon those specific bookings. And of course, to help them in developing their booking and cancellation policies. So our solutions objectives are to build a model to classify bookings with high cancellation probability, to determine if the global prediction model can be used for a specific hotel, and lastly, to identify which features in hotel databases contribute to predict a booking cancellation.
So here's our data set. For data information, the data contains 30 hotels worldwide with dates from 2019 until the first half of 2022. The data contains 1.8 million rows and 28 columns. For the hotel category, there are different hotel categories such as luxury, upscale, mid-scale, and economy. This is an example of a mid-scale or economy hotel, while this is an example of a luxury hotel. Hotels have different room types. These are often categorized into groups, for example, groups 1 to 3. This deluxe room is an example of a lower class of room type. Here's an example of a higher class room. Usually, suites are categorized as the highest room class for the hotel. For our dataset terminology, we have booking date. It's the date when the hotel reservation was booked. Lead time, it's the number of days between booking date and check-in date. Sell channel, it's where the reservation was sold, particularly direct, hotel, or GDS. Length of stay, it's the number of days a guest will stay.
For our exploratory data analysis, we first check why hotel cancellation is a concern for our client. Now, based on the data set that we have, 21 out of every 100 hotel bookings are being canceled. This is also an indication that the data set used is highly imbalanced. Knowing that a global pandemic has affected every sector across the globe and the hotel industry is among the hardest hit, we also checked our data and how the pandemic affected hotel cancellations. In here, we can see that hotel cancellation rate is highest during the pandemic, which is equivalent to 27%. Checking the rooms sold per month, we can see that there was a drastic decline in April 2020, which is caused by COVID. COVID has overwhelmingly impacted the sales of luxury hotels by 65%, while less impact is observed for upper mid-scale and upscale hotels. Exploring the data more, we did a relationship check between the quantitative variables used in the study and the target variable, which is cancellation indicator. The top two associated variables to cancellation are lead time and number of changes. In here, we can see that lead time has weak positive correlation to cancellation, meaning the longer the lead time, the higher the chance of booking being canceled. Also, number of changes has weak negative association to cancellation, meaning to say the fewer changes in the booking details, the higher the chance of being canceled. So based on the correlation check that we did, we took the average lead time of canceled bookings. It goes to show that customers tend to cancel their bookings 10 days before the arrival date. Interestingly, customers who canceled their bookings made low changes in their booking details. Now, we also checked how changes in booking details relate to lead time. We found out that they are negatively correlated, meaning the longer the lead time, the less change are being made by the customer or vice versa. Canceled bookings are hotels with higher average daily rate. Average daily rate is the best indicator for hotel room rate quality. ADR is computed as total rooms revenue divided by total occupied rooms. Now, customers who book for luxury hotels tend to cancel more compared to those who book for upper mid-scale and upscale hotels. Pre-modeling, we also did a quick correlation test between the quantitative variables used in the study. It goes to show that some variables are highly correlated. Those are booking date year and stay year, and booking date month and stay month. In here, we can see that customers book a hotel during the same month of their stay.
Here is our machine learning model. For methodology, data was prepared and analyzed. We determined that the 2020 data has outlier-like behaviors compared to other years, so it was removed. Each model was tested using stratified k-fold. The global model and local models were compared using their predictions on each hotel. SHAP analysis was later used to determine the most important features. For choosing the best model to use, we have recall and precision. CatBoost has the best precision and recall among all models. We have train accuracy and train F1 score. CatBoost also had one of the best F1 scores. Since this model will be used later on to determine if the hotel is pricing correctly, we want a balance between precision and recall. And since our data is imbalanced, F1 score was used as the main metric. We also considered balance accuracy. Lastly, CatBoost has one of the best runtimes among all the models. For resampling, all KNN had comparable F1 score with other resampling methods while having 4 times faster runtime than other methods. The same process was used in choosing the best local models for each hotel. All KNN and CatBoost was chosen because of its good F1 score and fast runtime. The local and global models had varying performance across hotels. There is no one model fits all for all hotels. Choosing between global and local models would produce better results. Among the created models, we decided that the model that the hotel will choose will be the one with the highest F1 accuracy.
Okay, so after running our models, we were able to determine the important features that affects the prediction. Here, we compare the results from the global model and 2 local hotel models. Notice that there is a different story for every model because their important features are not the same for all. However, there are 3 common features present to all, and these are the number of changes in the booking, wherein the lower changes leads to cancellation, lead time, where the higher lead time leads to cancellation, and average daily rate. For the global model, higher cost of ADR may lead to cancellation, but this could not be the same for all hotels. Okay, so let's do a cancellation booking analysis. For the first example, the lead time is long. It has a low-class room type for $219.8. Intuitively, the customer must have been planning and found a better deal, thus the change of mind. So our recommendation is that the hotel should review their policies with regards to lead time in bookings and revisit their pricing analysis with respect to room types. Another example, here the customer access through mobile, the number of change is low and the booking was recently made and there is no lead time. So intuitively, this booking could have been an error booking from the customer, thus canceled. For our recommendation, we encourage the hotel to encourage their customers to add reasons for cancellation. So in all, Buka delivers. Our model was built to classify bookings with high cancellation probability, and our criteria to determine if the global prediction model can be used for a specific hotel is efficient. And the features that contribute to predict a booking cancellation probability were identified. This will help Hotelitas business whenever there's a booking cancellation. So for our conclusion and recommendations, there is no one model fits all for all hotels. Choosing between global and local models would produce better results. And this can be measured through our pipeline. And another recommendation is to include consumer data, such as proximity of the consumer, in the training model to improve the results. So that ends our capstone. Good evening.
Thank you so much and congratulations to Team Buka for that incredible capstone project. I was listening to the presentation at nagigilty ako kasi feel ko kasama ako sa 20 to 60% po no, na nagka-cancel ng hotel bookings. It must have been such a challenge to scrape all that data given the time period of the pandemic. Actually makes me think, nag-iiba ba ang consumer behavior now that it's post-COVID season? And will this change in the way you do the capstone project? But I'm not the one asking the questions here. It will be our panelists. So again, you know the drill. Please feel free to head on over to the Dory link to send in your inquiries for the group. And we will answer this during the Q&A or reply directly to them after. Now, it's time for the Q&A segment with our panel of judges. Starting off with our main panelist for Team Buka, Mr. Asaf Vega.
All right. Can you hear me well? Am I audible? Okay. All right. First and foremost, congratulations, everyone, to all group members. Now I'm seeing Team Christian and Angelo. Why are you not smiling? Can you give me a smile? Okay, the hard part is over. All right, the hard part is over. I'll remind you that you did your capstone pretty well. I know you know your data. I know you know your technical skills. Although I do figure it needs some kind of improvement in terms of soft skills. But however, I just want to ask a few things, right? In terms of conclusion, I noticed that you concluded in terms of the global data sets and the local data sets, right? So in the first parts of the power presentation, you mentioned that you took at least, if I'm not mistaken, 30 global data sets, right? From hotels all around the world. What made you conclude to get global data sets instead of right off the bat, just from the presentation itself?
Uh, we really wanted to get as much hotels as possible, but due to time limitation, we only got 30 hotels. So we want from one of the studies, we saw the region and the brand has implications on cancellation. So we want that to be incorporated in our model.
Okay. For the local data sets, do you have any limitation in terms of getting data, especially here in the Philippines?
Uh, this was actually a mask data from a company that I won't be able to name, but I think we were able to get all information that we needed.
Alright, okay. Okay, so going back now, from what Dr. Jason mentioned earlier, how would you sell this idea? That's what I want to hear.
Actually, I think hotels right now have difficulty forecasting the number of rooms that they will be selling, especially since the 2020 data that they have has been, for lack of better term, is a bit useless for them in forecasting. So with this, I think some hotels use predictive models using decay curve, decay curve or something similar. I'm sorry about that. But in with this, we can replace the decay curve that they'll be using for the on the books, using cancellation instead of the curve that they're currently using.
Yes, and if I may add, we added an explain. We had a part where we can explain our results. Wherein I think previous studies have not included in their post. So I think that would really help our client to understand our studies or our model.
Okay, yeah, I get you know your technical skills, right? And I believe Bash has some inputs as well, I think. And from my side as a data operations perspective, what I just want to maybe suggest and I at least additional insights on your presentation is that on your selling of your data, I believe data storytelling is also important, right? If you get it. Um, the data storytelling in terms of the setting, the conflict, and the resolution, which you already introduced to us. However, in terms of using graphs and visuals, this is one key point to selling your idea, right? Um, the graphs and the visuals from the previous slides are very informative. However, from in the conclusion part, I find it very slightly difficult to understand what you want to portray. Okay, but don't get me wrong. The conclusions and recommendations are very informative to me and to I believe to the rest of the group. But I think it needs more improvement in terms of the visuals because as you may know, single picture portrays 1,000 words, right? So I think it needs a little bit more of improvement in terms of those visuals and graphs. So but overall I think you did great. And just like Bash mentioned earlier, labels matter for supervise, right? And I just want to congratulate everyone for doing this capsule project really well. And for those improvements, I hope you improve it more, for lack of a better term. And last question, I just want to ask, how was your sprints? It was mentioned earlier that you run this project through sprints. How was it?
Uh, we, I enjoyed the sprints. How about you, Angelo? Tin.
Okay. Also good. Okay, just to bat it off, all right. Just remember, a key to an effective sprint is having an agile mindset. All right, remember that agile mindset, and also with that, I want you to practice more on your soft skills, the presentation skills, because even though you have the right data, even though you have the right items to discuss, if you don't know how to show it to the world, trust me, the people will not listen. It has to be balanced on terms of technical skills and also the portraying of your idea, right? Um, right off the bat, the presentation was good. It needs a little bit more of improvements. However, I believe you're gonna do great, right? I think that's all for me. Good work and a great capstone project. And thank you.
Maraming salamat, Asaph. Bash, you have any questions to the group? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, congratulations, guys. As Asaph mentioned, doing sprints in an agile manner, that's how we do it in ING. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed or enjoying the sprints that Esquelab has been preparing. So this problem that you're solving, it's basically what we call in the industry dynamic pricing strategy. So it's an optimization problem. As you mentioned in your slides, right price at the right time. So the key ingredient here is right time. So do you think the models that you've used are time dependent? So that's the first question. Time dependent ba yung models na ginamit nyo? Consider nyo bang gumamit ng some time series techniques or any models that you think considers time as a feature or variable?
I think we considered that early on, but to be honest, we don't know how we will solve it. But we considered some time variables in our features, such as the stay month and stay year. But since it's a 3 ensemble model, they'll treat 2023, 2024 data as our latest year, 2022. So I think that's one of our limitations in our model.
Yeah. So that's going to be a problem if you're doing prediction, right? Because you don't have enough information to do the actual prediction. So my recommendation, how we do it in dynamic pricing, this is very close to heart because I've been like working closely with booking.com recently for some optimization algorithms to, they use hidden Markov models to look at sequences of events prior to cancellation. So I think you can also consider that. Last question from me, and I think this is very like interesting. I saw that in your slides you did data balancing, right? How did you handle data imbalance again? Did you do like smooth to do the balancing to make sure that canceled like data points versus continuing booking are same level?
Since we saw that there's a data imbalance, we tried I think some oversampling and some undersampling methods. So I think we found the all-K and then one of the most efficient undersampling methods.
Yeah, you might need to rethink that since inherently sa totoong buhay, sa totoong mundo, hindi naman talaga balance yung data. So gusto mong ilagay talaga yung biases din sa models mo. So sometimes hindi naman necessary na, lalo na kapag gumagamit ka ng ensemble models, sa mga tree-based models natin, hindi naman kailangan na balance siya lagi. At easily explainable naman yan. Si tree-based model yan, white box types of models yan. So hindi nyo kailangan na i-balance yan technically because in real world, again, imbalance talaga yung data and that's what you want to amplify those biases in your models. No, I think those are all of my questions. And you just mentioned, no, as a part of my advocacy to ensure data ethics, you mentioned that you wanted to add a proximity of user to your model to make it more like accurate, for example, in terms of like calculating like prices or probability of cancellation. Do think about privacy because I can also cheat it using VPN, right? So I can use VPN. Lagay ko malapit para since malapit ako, baka mas mababa yung presyo. So I'm not sure if adding geospatial component to it will make your models perform better. But if you do, make sure that you do it with differential privacy and with ethics in mind. Good job, guys. Great to see how your client will respond to this project. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ASAP. Thank you, Bash.
Thank you.
Right. Congratulations to Team Buka and maraming salamat sa ating judges, Asaf and Bash, for those very important and insightful comments and questions that our group will surely think about moving forward for their capstone projects. Who would have thought that someone is investigating and taking a look at booking cancellations only here sa Esquelab's capstone project demo day? All right. We are now down to our last capstone project, capstone group for the night. Please give a warm welcome to our final capstone group, Juancho Moreno, Kyle Ong, and Nino Moreno with NBA versus PBA, an analysis of the player archetypes.
Hello and
Here we go.
Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this. My name is Juancho Moreno. Joining me, we have Nino Moreno and Kyle Ong. Today, we will be presenting our presentation on sports analytics, the PBA versus the NBA on their different player archetypes. Now, without further ado, let us jump right ahead into the introduction, introducing why we chose basketball to analyze in the first place. So now, as we all know, the basketball industry is a huge business, with the NBA itself being worth roughly around 49.5 billion US dollars. Now, why the PBA, why Philippines in particular when it regards to basketball? Well, the Philippines is a country that we all know is obsessed with basketball, with roughly 40 million Filipinos playing or having played the sport. Now, leveraging on future events, the Philippines will actually be hosting the FIBA Basketball World Cup coming up in 2023. So we thought that this project would be very much relevant and timely. Now, moving into the problem statement that ties this whole presentation together, we have two types of problem statements that we want to address. First would be the macro question that we all shared as group mates. How can data science be used to better inform PBA stakeholders? And second would be the micro question. So we wanted to answer the macro question by answering the micro question first. What types of PBA and NBA archetypes are present or can we find in the respective leagues? Now, to answer these questions, we want to hit three key objectives. First would be to identify the different player archetypes present in the PBA and NBA. And second, we want to compare these similarities and their differences to hopefully, third objective, provide meaningful insights that may be useful for our intended stakeholders, which are the PBA stakeholders. Now, talking about the data set that we used, we obtained this data from basketballreference.com and dribblemedia.com. Now, it's important to note that all of the data that we got is quantitative. So quantitative, in fact, we only got basketball statistics. So this is points per game, minutes per game, and etc. The inputs are seen in the slide here. Now, all data is from the respective 2021 seasons. We want to get the most comprehensive, most recent data that we could find. So moving on to the comparison between the leagues. We have the NBA being that it is a bigger league, it has more players and more teams. Again, it is important to note that the NBA is the world standard when it comes to basketball leagues. The PBA, on the other hand, its competition style is different. It has a foreigner cap to maintain competitiveness, and its team format is totally different as it is defined and limited by companies instead of cities. Now, moving on to how we'll answer our macro and micro questions said earlier, we have 5 steps. First is to scrape the data from the basketballreference.com and dribblemedia.com, the sites mentioned prior. Second would be to clean this data and perform an exploratory data analysis. Third would be to model this data by means of k-means, clustering, and soft k-means. Now, fourth, we'd want to analyze these results by taking a look again at the different player archetypes. And fifth, using these archetypes, we want to come up with our own recommendations. Now, taking a look at the EDA that we have, we want to show you more about the different statistical leaders in different categories of the game. So in the points per game, for the NBA, we have Stephen Curry, and for the PBA, we have Mikey Williams. Second, we have Clint Capella for rebounds per game in the NBA, and we have Christian Stan Hardinger for the rebounds, the leader in rebounds per game in the PBA. Now, for assists per game, for the NBA, we have Russell Westbrook, and for the PBA, we have Robert Pollock. Now, a lesson from the EDA is that if there's anything clear, there truly are different types of players who are good at different things, who are good at different statistical categories. We noticed it's not just one person leading the charts. So to identify and delve deeper into more of the types of players, we have Kyle with a k-means clustering.
So, how is the optimal k-means cluster number obtained? Well, it was obtained by identifying the inertia and silhouette scores. For the NBA, the cluster number was identified as 6. It can be seen that the graphs for the inertia and silhouette scores decrease slower after the 6th cluster. A similar method was used to find the k-means cluster number of the PBA, and we identified it to be 6 clusters as well. So now we'll be moving on to the archetypes for the NBA. Just like what was previously mentioned, the NBA has 6 clusters, which means that there are 6 archetypes as well. The 6 archetypes that we identified are the role players, shooters, contract players, supporting big men, main big men, and stars. Here's a short overview of the different NBA archetypes. First of all, we'll have the role player, and these players score a fair amount of points to help the team. However, they play limited minutes and are not really effective players. So we define them as mediocre support players. Next, we have the shooters. In particular, they're excellent three-point shooters. This cluster has the second highest 3 points made, as well as the highest 3 points percentage. And they also score a decent amount of points per game. Next, we have the contract players. The players here have the lowest stats of any cluster. It's important to note that there are only 6 players in this cluster. And another thing that's important is that these 6 players all have G League contracts, which means that all of them are just borderline NBA players. Next up, we have the supporting big man. They take high percentage shots near the basket, and they have a high rebounds per game, as well as the second highest offensive rebounds per game among all clusters. However, they're less effective than the main big men cluster that will be coming up. So now we have the main big men. These players have the highest blocks per game, as well as the highest defensive rebounds per game. In general, these players are great inside players that dominate the paint. Lastly, we have the star players. They have high minutes per game, high points per game, as well as high assists. These players consist of the main core of the team.
Now, as we move over to the PBA archetypes, we can see that the PBA archetypes, on the other hand, have similar types based on shooters and bigs, but there seems to be a small difference based on how the bigs are in the PBA. Now, if we could see the supporting bigs cluster, this is actually pretty similar to the supporting bigs in the NBA archetypes. They support the team not necessarily in points, but mainly in rebounds as they utilize their size in getting the ball. Now, these are the shot takers. Now, these players are not necessarily the best players in the league, but are seen to be the ones taking the longer range shots as compared to their other co-players in the PBA. Now, the two-way big men is one of the most dominant types of players in the PBA, as they not only utilize their size for the offensive aspect of the game, such as scoring points and offensive rebounds, but also on the defensive aspect as well. Hence, the two-way big man. Now, the role players. These are the types of players that are either part of the bench team or really just supporting players to the star guards or the two-way big men. They can contribute some points, some rebounds. However, they are not the most effective players on the game and are seen as a more of support role. Now for the underperforming players, these are the players that scored really low and saw very limited playing time. The two players in these clusters are the ones that saw the least amount of action in the PBA. Now for the guard stars. These are the players that score high offensively and are focusing on the guard aspects of the game, which is scoring by shooting or some layups, and also focusing mainly on assisting and also passing, which is seen by having one of the highest assists per game in our dataset. Now, as we compare the two leagues, we can see that the NBA expectedly has higher stats compared to the PBA in terms of the basic stats such as points, rebounds, assists, even turnovers. We can see that there are more threes attempted in the NBA. And this is mentioned by some NBA journalists as a modern type of play by focusing on shooting within the perimeter or within a farther range, such as a 3 point area or a far 2 point area. Now, if we look at the PBA seems to have more star players that rebound more than the NBA. Now, this could be attributed to the PBA players' lack of efficiency with their shooting, making them miss more, thus resulting into more rebounds, whether defensive or offensive type of rebounds. This could be mentioned by some basketball journalists as an old school's type of playing, which is reminiscent of the old school NBA, wherein the big men tend to dominate the game offensively and defensively, and while the guards are focused on passing and assisting. Although it is important to note that in the NBA, given the star guard cluster, there is a surge that the guards have been leading the offenses as well.
With that, we have our recommendations for three key stakeholders of the PBA. First are the development coaches. We suggest that focusing on the supporting bigs cluster of the PBA, we suggest that these development coaches take a look at building their offense as making them more like two-way bigs would surely help the chances of the team succeeding in the league. And second would be, generally speaking, we want these development coaches to focus on the shooting efficiency of players, especially those part of the role players clusters, as they tend to have low shooting efficiency. For the PBA scouts, as we mentioned earlier, there are two dominant clusters in the PBA. That is the two-way big men and the guard stars. So we suggest that PBA scouts look for versatile bigs and shifty guards like Torrance Romeo in the junior leagues such as the junior NCAA and junior UAP leagues. Moving forward, for PBA general managers, if their poor performance continues, we suggest that they drop the players in the underperforming player cluster, and we also suggest that they experiment on plays that encourage more threes, as there's an abundance of shooting specialists in the league or shot takers in the league. So we'd want the general managers to leverage on that, hopefully. So now we conclude. In conclusion, we have to track back a bit and go back to our micro question, which was what types of PBA and NBA archetypes are present in the league. I think we've successfully answered that with the archetypes seen here. Now, with regards to the macro question, how can data science be used to better inform PBA stakeholders? We wanted to actually shift that conversation to you guys, since we're all data scientists here. Am I right? We want to scratch that and actually turn it into a question of how can data science be used to better inform sports in general. Now, by using that challenge, we actually want you to try it out for yourselves. So we'll leave you guys with that. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And we have been Team Duncan. Thank you.
And maraming salamat, Team Duncan. Makes me wonder. That was amazing. Makes me wonder if you have any sort of part in your capstone project where you try to predict the possibility of those interested playing basketball for those below 5'5". Sa mga small players katulad ko na. I'm just kidding. Yeah, interesting. That was a great conclusion. No? Something about how not just for basketball but also for sports. I wonder if this kind of archetype capstone can also figure out for, say, CrossFit Games what kind of player Tia Claire Toomey is, or Rich Froning Jr. Very interesting. Thank you so much. You know the drill for our audiences. Please feel free to head on over to the Dory link to send in your inquiries for the group, and the fellows will answer this directly in the Dory after. Now it's time for our final Q&A segment with our panel of judges, starting with our main panelist for Team NBA versus PBA, Mr. James Ryan Alba.
So first of all, guys, congratulations, and that was a great presentation. And thank you for using the Dribble Media database. Nagulat ako, pero thank you guys. And so yun, let's get to it. First is, I have a question first. Anong ginamit niyo specifically? It was the Philippine Conference, if I'm correct? The 2021 Philippine Conference. Hi, so yung comment ko lang doon, since there's a radical shift in play style when you put in imports. So for that, the stats will differ a lot when you put in better players from abroad, and it will be better to incorporate that next time if you try to do this again. Since 2/3 of the season they have imports, they only play without them for 1/3 of the season, and it's only an 11-game sample for a lot of these guys. So it would have been better to incorporate a bigger sample size to get a more accurate read, especially since we both know that the shooting numbers are incredibly fickle, and that could affect how your your results are perceived. And second is, did you use the basic per minute statistics, or did you try adjusting for pace? Because I remember that it's present there.
From what I remember, we just stuck to the basic per game.
Okay. Because in my opinion, extrapolating it to either per 36 minutes or to a certain number of possessions leads to better comparison in between leagues and players. So for example, you tried comparing the NBA and PBA. These guys play at a different pace because obviously the sheer athleticism is better, and therefore the game is faster in the US than in here. So it will have been more apples to apples comparatively. But other than that, but it will only result to like minor changes. So the general findings will be the same. And the last feedback I have is, for this to be usable, for example, if I'm a PBA coach, for me to be able to use this, the archetypes need to be better defined and to incorporate more things, because the way it looks like, it's mostly scoring related or describing their output based on scoring, incorporating playmaking, defense, and for example, height to categorize them differently. For example, bigs that can shoot are different from 6'1" guys that can shoot. So these are important categorizations that the PBA teams would find more valuable. And yeah, there are also like more advanced statistics that you could have used that are also in the database, that would have led to more descriptive archetypes. And if you want, I could link you guys to an example of a similar thing that people in the US have done, where they've cut it down.
I think we lost James over there a bit.
Sorry,
James, you can backtrack 10 seconds from where you were speaking.
What was the last thing I said? Sorry.
I'm not one.
So
Not
I think
sure,
you
but
were
it was really short.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
Juancho, go ahead.
You were sharing about some resources you could share about some. Oh,
sorry.
Other database points, no?
Yeah, I think other like similar projects from a different country, I think.
So I'll just cut it to what I was saying previously. ended ko na here. This is basically groundbreaking in the Philippine landscape because um, halos walang ganitong study or no one has really tried other than I guess you and me, I guess, to actually do something like this for basketball. And I really love seeing this. And it's really important since data analytics in sports around the world, it's a million dollar industry. People, teams shell out money for this because it provides an edge in a competitive edge, and every single edge counts in sports. And you did a great job overall. Minor tweaks and improvements to make it more accurate and to reflect the actual landscape of local basketball. And it's still pretty good. And congratulations again.
You can just imagine the Inuman said, sorry, the Friday night conversations with James and Juancho and Nino and Kyle, no, in one group. Lots of thoughts and insights there. Bash, let's head on over to you for questions, maybe about the technicals. Thank you.
All right. Hey guys, how are you doing? Basketball, interesting. A lot of Filipinos love it. And we're known worldwide that we have streets with like basketball courts. So that's how like people know that we're Filipinos. So question for me, you used K-means clustering again. So similar comment, remember use K-means clustering if you are sure that the morphology of your data points are symmetric. If not, consider other techniques. But how did you test the quality of the clusters that you've created? Any metrics that you've used?
I guess, well, we also run a soft k-means where it generated weights per each data point in reference to the centroid of each cluster. So we just limited the data points for both NBA and PBA data sets with those data points with a 90% confidence with respect to their centroid. Yeah, with respect to their group.
So it's a measure of coherence, right? It's a measure of coherence that this data point really belongs to this cluster, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so there are many other like techniques that you can use to give number to that. Soft K means good. You can also try silhouette score. I think some groups used it. Silhouette score, a coherence score. But there are more interesting things that you can look at to maybe like improve the clusters that you've created because some of them are overlapping, right? I can see some overlaps in your clusters. To prevent that, you can use three things. So these are the things that they teach you in information theory. So mutual information, transfer entropy, and correlation coefficient. Those three things are the magic sauce that we use in the industry when using and segmenting properly those clusters to make sure that they really belong to the correct clusters. I'm gonna put them in chat so you can reference later. So another question from me, basketball is a game played between multiple players, right? But in your approach, you're only analyzing one row which is consisted of one player. So how do you then account for team dynamics? Nuances between the skill sets of player one, player two, and how they interact. How do you now put them together to make your models more accurate?
So I think that would be an entirely different study. I think what we wanted to, oh,
Okay, go ahead.
sorry. Oh, but sorry, just speaking my thoughts. I got nervous today. Pero I think that what we wanted to do was just give like an overview of like what type of players are present in the league. We do understand that.
Archetypes. Mhm,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. So
Mhm,
yeah, basically
okay.
just it's purely just like archetype pa lang. So you're expanding the study, we could definitely look into how these archetypes play into one another.
But those
yeah.
archetypes are also dependent on how they interact with other people, right? It's not
Oh,
only
that's
about
true.
individual stats that matter because again, basketball is a team play.
That's
So
true.
that's
That's true.
my point. But good point on bringing up that you're only interested with the archetypes. Maybe explore other branch of mathematics like game theory. So game theory and graph theory are, I think, approaches where you look at not only the individual points, but how those points interact with each other, which is more interesting and yeah, value adding. But what you did is already like very interesting. So great job, guys. Back to you, Val.
Thank you so much, Bash, and thank you so much as well, James, Ryan Alba for those inputs. Napaka-interesting talaga ng ating conversation at presentation of capstone projects tonight. Let's give a warm virtual round of applause to our Data Science Fellowship Cohort 9 fellows. Show those virtual claps and applauses right there. And you can also express your thanks and congrats to them through the chat box in the Zoom. They had 15 weeks to prepare for this. So I'm sure a little boost in energy and congratulations and love through the Zoom chat and Zoom reactions would be great. Grabe, from poverty reduction to promotion of Philippine delicacies to booking cancellations to basketball. Can you just imagine the plethora of topics and themes and issues that can be reimagined through the use and investigation and exploration of data? Thank you so much for being such a great audience tonight, everybody. I'd like to give our fellows, our panel, and you another big round of applause. Before we close for the night, don't go yet. The Escuelabs team has sent over a short feedback form and launched a Zoom poll for your comments and feedback. Now, we take your feedback very seriously, and we will be using this to improve our events in the future. So please click that link over there in the Zoom chat box and tell us how we did. And of course, I believe our Zoom poll will be launched in a bit. And as you're all answering that poll as promised earlier, ayun, lumabas na ating event feedback poll. Please tell us which parts were you satisfied with and which parts were you unsatisfied with. Because again, we take your feedback very seriously. Maraming salamat po. So as you're answering the poll, as promised earlier, we're giving all cohort 10 applicants who are here tonight a special discount code. Ayan. The discount code, that's 1,000 pesos off of your data science fellowship tuition when you sign up for cohort 10. The code is right there on the screen. Take a screenshot of that. Take a photo of that. Now, the assessment deadline for the data science fellowship is fast approaching. So don't forget to sign up and take that assessment by August 29, which is a Monday, and that is a holiday. So alam kong kayang-kaya niyo yan sa mga hindi pa nag-submit. Mahabol yan, promise. Once you pass the assessment, you will be invited to a fit interview, and that's where you can inform our admissions team of the promo code to get a 1,000 peso off discount to your tuition fee. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Cohort 10 now. If you want to be involved in such a meaningful celebration of data, reimagining the future with data, please join us for Cohort 10. As in, ngayon na talaga. Now, to close us off, I'll be handing the floor back to our program director, Lex Tanganco, to say a few words. Lex?
All right. Thank you so much, Val. Thank you for hosting our event today. And yeah, ang bilis, 2 hours has passed and now we're at the end of demo day. Of course, I want to congratulate our fellows for job well done. I'd like to thank our judges, Sir Asaf Vega, Dr. Jason Alapaca, Sir James Alba, Sir Neptune Factor, and Bash for all your insights and feedback. For me, presentations become the value of it increases by a lot when it's challenged. And I think that's why we have this setup in which our guest judges get to provide feedback to our students. And also, once again, like to thank Val for hosting our event. Of course, the internal Escuelabs team for managing this event. And for those of you who came here who were just interested in understanding like what is a demo day, what type of projects are usually shared, hopefully tonight your questions were answered. You were able to witness what the students were able to create. Definitely, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? You only saw the last day of 15 weeks worth of learning and creating, as I mentioned. And before we end the night, I just like to remind everyone why we do Demo Day. And I'd like to bring it back to a question that Dr. Jason had asked the first group when they were talking about using machine learning to alleviate poverty in Cabanatuan, where he asked how would the group basically convince the government to be able to apply the recommendations that they have made. And it just really reminded me why we do these things, right? Of course, there are a lot of fancy tools, lots of things to learn, but at the end of the day, we use data science to be able to solve real problems that real people are encountering. And I hope at the end of the day, you start thinking about what types of problems you may want to solve, right? And possibly data science can be that way to be able to help solve that problem. So once again, I want to congratulate everyone, and I want to give it back to Val to close our event.
Maraming salamat, Lex, at maraming salamat sa lahat ng pumunta para makita at mapakinggan ang ating demo day from our data science cohort 9 fellows. Thank you so much for everyone who attended us tonight. This was the Data Science Fellowship Cohort 9 Demo Day, reimagining the future with data. Don't forget to share your feedback with us through the poll and feedback form. You can also reach out to us on our social media accounts. So we hope to see you in Cohort 10 of the Data Science Fellowship, and we will see you again in our next events. Maraming salamat po. Thank you. This was your host and moderator, Val Vestil. You can follow me on my socials. That's at VALVESTIL, saying have fun, drink water, and tell them you love them, because it's too late if you don't do it. Thank you very much. Signing off. Bye.